I've got that radiant glow, that sweet, glorious blue. And
Hello there, and welcome to the Green Vault Podcast, a lore-based podcast delving into the world of Fallout and its locations, be they eerily spooky, weirdly funny, quirkily strange, or wonderfully benign. So join me, your host, Red, as we take a look at a location in Fallout and discuss every aspect from architecture, quests, loot, sound, and game design. So welcome, fellow Fallout enjoyers, let's delve into today's location. In the northeastern side of the New Vegas map, past the Bitter Springs Recreation Area, there is a location that was once intended to be an NCR outpost, now seemingly empty and overrun by all manner of hostile creatures. Can you discover the story behind this seemingly empty outpost and what happened to the NCR troopers stationed there? Let's find out as we delve into Camp Guardian. Following the shattered road from the Bitter Springs Recreation Area, up around several bends you can find yourself at a scenic lookout. Cazadors sweep the area for easy prey. Up on the hill ahead you can see the remains of white-posted wide fences wrapping around the hill. The walls are sheer and defendable, making it a great outpost. The sight of the fences leaves you curious enough to investigate, well, hopefully. Hugging the wall and heading south you'll find the entrance to Camp Guardian. A faded green road sign sits in front of the entrance. Some hostile coyotes may be standing around the sign, though it's inconsistent whether they're present or not. The sign reads Camp Guardian, elevation really high, pop 12-ish. The words camp really high and pop 12-ish are spray painted on the sign. The original text is very hard to discern and sprayed over with the white paint. As you approach the sign, Camp Guardian radio, a radio signal, is picked up. The message says, "Bravo. Come in, Bravo. Is anyone out there? The camp was attacked. I'm the only one left alive. We were attacked by some kind of freak mutants from the caves. Please send backup. Goddamn leg. I don't know how much longer I'm going to make it before I bleed out. Bravo. This is Camp Guardian calling for backup. No sign of the rest of the men stationed here. This is Private Halford requesting backup. Anyone out there? Guardian is down. I repeat, Guardian is down. Requesting backup from any nearby forces. Those beasts drug the rest of my men away. Oh God, I hope they don't come back for me." With that chilling message, you can move on. The only way forward is up, around the rocky, treacherous path now poorly guarded by the sporadic white-posted fence. You'll quickly stumble upon a page of a journal called Camp Guardian Log Page. The first page you collect is page 7. There are 11 pages in total to collect, spanning from page 3 to 20, with gaps in between to make up a total of 11. Their locations are random in that they have a set order you get them, but you can get them from any location. So basically page 7 will be the first page you pick up regardless of which page you grabbed along the hiking trail. If you skip over all of them, then grab the final page along the trail, it still will be page 7. I'll read them as I come upon them. Page 7 reads, Captain Guardian Daily Log, Sergeant Banner reporting, Day 7. Okay, we're making good headway cleaning up the paths. With only the 12 of us, I'm amazed we've moved this much rock in such a short time. Kale and I made it to the top yesterday. The survey team was right. Guardian Peak has one hell of a view, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us. I sent a runner to Bravo to request a radio from McCarran. There isn't much point of having an Overwatch camp here if it takes us at least an hour to sprint to Bravo to report a Legion assault. This first note does help point out the importance of this spot. The first path you walk up is opposite the fort, which is Caesar's Fort, located just across the water of Lake Mead. The peak faces the north side of the fort, making it a good position to keep watch over the Legion and their movements. Just ahead on the trail is another note. This one was page 3. Camp Guardian Daily Log, Sergeant Banner reporting. I'll skip that in future ones, they all say that at the top. Day 3. This place is a mess. Most of the old hiking trails are buried in landslides, and the rest is so dusted you can't tell which direction you're supposed to go. I don't know what the hell the survey team was thinking when they said this was a strategically sound location. At least we're issued plenty of rations and the river has plenty of fresh water. We could eat for months. Let's hope tomorrow brings some headway cleaning this place up. Less than a stone's throw from this note is another. The previous one was snagged in a dusty shrub. The same goes for this one, but it was facing the other way, making it blend in with the rock a bit more. Walking past it and looking back made it more noticeable. I think it's just an in-game engine thing. One side of the note is brighter and typically more noticeable. This page was 18. Day 18. We finally got the radio from McCarran. I've set it up on the peak so anyone on Overwatch duty can quickly radio if the Legion makes a move. I do like to know which genius back at command decided to send a squad to this location, but didn't think to give us a radio so we could actually call in an attack. Probably another politician's son. The next two are very close as well. Just as some wooden dirt-covered steps turn more into the peak itself, you'll find one on the steps. The next at the top of the steps, again in another bush. These were pages 12 and 20. Day 20. We managed to get the rest of the path cleared. Some pre-war fencing was mostly intact and were able to set it up as a makeshift barrier on the more dangerous cliffs. I hope none of these jarheads fall off. We found a few cave entrances as we were clearing rubble. They lead back to each other, with just a single collapsed path which appears to lead down into the mountain. The damn survey team didn't mention any caves. I hope we don't find any more little surprises. Page 20. Day 20. More surprises. Collins came across a cave entrance right behind our damn tent. The survey team should have caught this if they'd done a thorough job. I have no idea if anything is in there, but we don't have the manpower to deal with any serious pests. I'm going to have some choice words for Burke the next time I see him. This isn't the first time that idiot skipped over details while surveying an area. I hope to God we're not sitting on some kind of nest. I'm going to send Frakes and Collins to scout the caves tomorrow. If we have to, we'll use explosives to collapse the cave. So you're starting to get this fractured idea of what happened exactly. We know from the radio call that mutants attacked, and at the time of recording, there was at least one survivor. Now we're starting to see the potential problems that eventually led to the attack. The trail takes us up into a claustrophobic pass, with cliff walls on either side sending us out to our first enemies. Well, if you exclude the coyotes at the start that may or may not have been there. Rad scorpions block the path to a split in the road, though one road stops at an outhouse guarded by skeevers. I did put skeevers in my notes, but I meant giant rats. Yeah, wrong game. The main path leads over a rickety wooden bridge over a very small drop. If you fall down, you can just spam jump your way back up to the bridge, fortunately. The drop is guarded by two rad scorpions. Curiously though, one is already dead. The bridge leads to an area hikers once used for barbecues. Now you do have more of a choice here. A split path hooks down and around the outside of the peak. Two sandbag checkpoints face outwards. One has a scrap-made scarecrow taking the place of a real guard. This place leads to a cave entrance, generically labelled Camp Guardian Cave. The other sends you further up the peak. No new journal pages have been found yet, so I decided to first descend into the cave, despite my better judgment. This sees you walking through a rat-infested tunnel. Not knowing what has happened to the people here, the mystery makes this walk through gloomy tunnels tense. Caves in New Vegas mostly have this ominous drone. The cave system is short and sparsely lit by a few cracks in the ceiling. You end up in an oval-shaped room with a large collection of rats. Above you can see a light streaming through an opening, but you can't get to it. The exit is just past a sheer drop into that oval room, so you have to turn back, basically. This converts this potential split path back into more of a linear choice. You can only go up outside. So heading back out and up, you're again forced into a tight gulch. This time you need to battle more rad scorpions in this claustrophobic environment. Above you get a glimpse at another bridge spanning the gap you're running in. An NCR flag flaps lazily overhead, giving you a goal to look out for. You exit the pass at the other side of the peak. Below you is the entrance, so a good sense of progress as you move forward, being able to see where you started and continuing up. The journal pages start up again. The first is in a shrub just as you exit. This one was page 13. Day 13. It's been almost a week, and still no sign of a radio from McCarran. I'm sending a runner to Bravo to see if they can spare a handheld or any other radio gear, until McCarran can get around to sending the gear I requested. I swear those dumb bastards back at command expect us to use carrier pigeons or something. Just ahead is another page in another bush. Day 5. We managed to shovel most of the debris up to the first bridge. This thing looks like a wreck. Thankfully, there were a few wooden shacks around we can dismantle for scrap to rebuild. I just hope we don't run out of scrap before we finish the trail. Jackson says he heard some kind of howling the other night. It sounded like the wind to me. But yes, more ominous tones coming through there of a potential threats in the distance, howling noises and all that sort of good stuff. It's nice and spooky, I will say. A thin path continues ahead, an easier place to fall off. One spot in particular is nearly blocked by a rock. Winding your way around the outskirts leads to another barbecue spot, 2 decayed picnic tables and 2 more classic barbecue stands. This was the same at the previous spot, I just realised I forgot to actually mention that. A switchback leads up some more rotting steps to more rad scorpions. Oh, joy of joys. With the end in sight ahead as you're now at the peak, you battle through dead brush and rocks to finally cross the bridge you saw from earlier. Now you enter the NCR camp, an abandoned mess. Giant rats pick their way through the camp. Tins of food and bottles lay strewn about the place. Wooden crates placed as if used for chairs circle a now cold campfire. A tent ahead is filled with more sealed food and water sprayed about the floor. Footlockers are tipped over, and on the ground, splatters of blood stain the ground and the bedrolls are empty. The entire scene is backdropped by the wind, dust, and a radio near the campfire, pumping out rockabilly tunes to a dead campsite. You can reach the very top scenic lookout from here. It has a commanding view of the water as well as the fort. 4 more pages can be found, the last 4, 2 on the rickety wooden steps that lead up to this scenic outlook, and 1 is in front of a comfy-looking chair, with 2 empty bottles of Sunset Sarsaparilla and a pair of binoculars, an almost cosy-feeling watchpost. The first 3 pages are 8, 15, and 9. Day 8. More complaints of strange noises by Jackson. I'm starting to think he still has some unresolved issues after seeing his last squad wiped out by a Legion Slaver squad to the south. I sent out a few men to investigate, but they couldn't find anything. I think should keep Jackson away from the munitions until he calms down. And yes, there is a mistake there. It reads I think should, when it no doubt is meant to read I think I should. But moving along. Day 15. The handheld is working well enough and we finished building steps up to the steeper sections of the path. We can finally move the rest of our gear to the top. Last night, Jackson came screaming into the tent, swearing up and down he saw shadows moving in the water. I know legionaries are known to be fast runners, but swimming across the river? I sent half of the men in pairs to search the area, but again we came up empty-handed. I'm starting to think Jackson is unstable and may need counselling. I'll request a replacement when we get the radio from McCarran. Day 19. Okay, now I'm starting to hear noises. During my watch last night, I definitely heard splashes down in the water. I requested an additional survey from McCarran, but they blew it off as nerves. Fish don't make that much damn noise. I sent down half of the squad with lamps, but they couldn't see anything. We can't find any other cave openings. Maybe I've caught a little crazy from Jackson. I wish I had some cat eye. Can't see shit at night. Weirdly, I found that most of the pages spell Sergeant in full. A few, one of the ones included that I just read, has the abbreviation SGT dot instead. I assume, however, like that spelling mistake, it's just kind of an oversight. Though there is enough of a mystery here already, you could almost envision another mystery where somehow the pages are fake, well, at least some of them, leading to an intriguing story perhaps of false journal pages spread among the real as a cover-up for crimes. I could see the pages with the inconsistent spelling being made by someone else, laying the groundwork for their own crimes to disguise them as the work of mutants. But that's just my fun idea. No stealing, by the way. That's mine. You can't have it. Anyways, the final point of interest up here is the ham radio. It's the radio repeating the message that Private Halford left. You can switch it off to silence the radio channel. Another note is in a shrub just before the camp. I actually missed this one somehow. It's the 11th and final note you can find. Day 14. It's been a week and still no sign of a radio from McCarran. At least Bravo was nice enough to give us a handheld so we could relay to them in the meantime, should Caesar try anything. Private Halford will get the radio set up if and when it finally arrives. From now, he's in charge of the handheld and daily reports to Bravo. The last way to go is in the cave that one of the notes mentioned. The mouth opens up, straight into the camp. A splatter of blood is accompanied by several strewn pieces of food containers, as if someone was running away with a crate full of food, and some spilled out as they fled into the dark of the cave. Entering the cave, the ominous roar of the wind picks up. The way ahead is lit by bioluminescent mushrooms. Blood stains the entrance and a trooper helmet lies on the ground. Curving down, you come upon another tableau, another part of the story. A lantern illuminates a crate filled with C4. Several more sit around it. A combat knife is on the ground, accompanied by a 9mm pistol on the crate, and definitely a lot more blood. The blood splatters the entire area around the crate and leads down further into the tunnel. Down and down you descend. More mushrooms light the way until finally you come upon another lantern. This one highlights a body. A lake lurk. Lake lurks look very much like the creature from the Black Lagoon of the sort of 60s era, but made rather real and scary and doesn't look like some dude in a weird costume. So captured by the body though, you get a shock as you look left to see someone sitting at the end cap of a tunnel, surrounded by more light-giving mushrooms. Private Halford doesn't say anything until you talk to him. Halford's legs are injured and he's unable to walk. You can heal them with enough medicine or a doctor's bag. He wants to head back to California and rid himself of the NCR's incompetence. He assumes you're backup, but of course you merely stumbled upon this place, so there's no other backup other than you. He asks you to avenge his fallen comrades and collect their dog tags. He also asks you to inform the NCR of what happened. He's understandably unhappy. He managed to survive the attack only because he managed to stab the lake lurk that was dragging him down into the caves. I will say, his story is a little inconsistent. I don't believe it's intentional, just a mix-up with the story and the quest, sort of. He states that when the attack happened, he was cleaning his gun. He was knocked down and dragged into the cave. He managed to get his knife into the back of the lake lurk, then beat and strangle it, but not before it cut up his legs badly. At no point in the story does he have the ability or the time to really get to the radio and call for help, but that call went out and we heard it. Essentially, he implies he was dragged into the caves, took down the lake lurk next to him and hid in the nook you found him in, awaiting rescue. But he would have needed to drag himself all the way back up outside, then to the radio, then back into the caves to the place you find him. It makes no sense why he would actually do that. It's kind of weird. If you recall the radio message, he does mention his legs are bleeding out, but there's also no blood around the radio outside, no trails leading to it either, which would have been perfect environmental storytelling. I think it's just a case of it makes enough sense if you don't think about it too hard. In the end, you can heal up Halford and either convince him to accompany you to defeat the lake lurks, or tell him the way's clear up above and to leave. If you tell him he can leave and that the way out up top is clear, a very common bug occurs. Instead of heading up and out, he runs down, trying to get to another exit we'll come upon later. If he runs off that way and you don't accompany him, he will very promptly be destroyed by lake lurks. So if you want him to survive this, it's often best to just kind of leave him until later. Though that does come with its own problem, which I'll talk about later. He'll give you a note and a recipe as thanks for a genius weapon he devised called the Dog Tag Fist. I'll talk about that later on too. The note is just him letting you know what the weapon is, something he devised as a makeshift weapon due to NCR Command's mismanagement. The following cave is an internal descent of the Guardian Peak, filled with lake lurks. Trails of blood splatter the descent, and the occasional discarded item like a hunting rifle and some ammo can be found. It's a little hard to describe in detail because it's kind of winding and hard to, visualize and describe. The winding caves make it hard to get a proper sense of direction. It's all dimly lit with bioluminescent mushrooms, a mix of green and blue, with the rare shaft of light here and there. The tunnels eventually lead to a circular cave room filled with stalactites and stalagmites. Down a tunnel, you start to find the bodies of the NCR troopers, missing limbs and stained in blood. The macabre trail of bodies leads to another circular room with a central column. Wrapped around the center of the column are lake lurk eggs. A lake lurk king guards the eggs, a tougher foe bigger than normal lake lurks with glowing white eyes and luminescent claw tips and fins. A pack Brahmin and a few bodies lay casually thrown around the eggs. I believe the implication is that they're food for the hatchlings when they're born, or mayhaps for the king. A final area finds you in ankle-deep water leading ahead. A grand cavern with the remaining lake lurks leads to a small underwater passage. Swimming through, you'll find yourself just outside Camp Guardian in Lake Mead. And, well, that's it. Camp Guardian is completed. A good compact story wrapped up in an external ascent of the peak and an internal descent of the gloomy caves. It's quite an intriguing location to visit, a good mystery wrapped up in a rather small area. The only quest for Camp Guardian is an unmarked quest called Help for Halford, the quest you do while you're exploring the place. There's basically no special loot here either. A single Sunset Sarsaparilla Star bottle cap can be found at the NCR campsite at the top. A hollowed out rock is at the entrance to the area, just opposite the Camp Guardian sign. These aren't special loot per se, but you can find some more interesting things in these loot containers. Mine had 81 flamer fuel in case you're interested. The last thing is the recipe for the Dog Tag Fist, an ingenious makeshift weapon that involves putting an NCR dog tag between each of the gaps of your closed fist, then wrapping the chains of the tags around your knuckles. I have no idea how Private Halford came up with the idea. Pure brilliance. These are unarmed weapons with a 0 skill requirement and only 1 strength, so usable by basically any character you can build. You need 30 repair skill at a workbench to craft them. Funnily enough, the recipe requires 20 NCR dog tags to make the damned weapons, despite the fact the weapon has you wielding only 3 dog tags in each fist. The weapon is only craftable by you, so aside from a unique variant found at Cottonwood Cove, you won't find them anywhere else in the world. Also, as a fun note, NCR dog tags are considered quest loot. They can't be removed from your inventory, so even in the DLC, the Sierra Madre stuff, which sees you stripped of all your belongings, you'll still have the dog tags on you, meaning you can craft the weapon if you can find a workbench and have the required skills and the dog tags in your inventory. Of course, this would also happen anywhere else you find yourself stripped of gear, but I can't actually recall anywhere else that happens in New Vegas. Not off the top of my head, I will say. So that's it for the quest and loot. There aren't any real Easter eggs either, so to speak. The only real note I have about the place is that Guardian Peak is a real-world location in the River Mountains in Clark County, Nevada, near the north shore of Lake Mead. The only other fun thing about this is that if you clear out all the lake lurks before getting to the private, the option to heal him may not appear, so he'll remain stuck in the cave forever, never to leave. Just waiting for his legs to get healed, but you can never do it because the option is simply not there due to a bug. You can't find the private anywhere else in the world if he survives and escapes. He won't teleport away either, like a lot of other NPCs that are supposed to disappear. If you remember, the private wants to go back to California, so get the hell out of Nevada and New Vegas. Instead, he'll run from this location to the Mojave Outpost, which is practically the other side of the map. His journey includes encounters with a Cazador swarm, a Deathclaw nest, and 2 Powder Gang camps. He does not survive the journey unless you accompany him the entire way. If he does make it, he heads inside the outpost and vanishes as he runs into a desk, never to be seen again. But yes, that's it for the general notes and what have you and all that good stuff for Camp Guardian. As always, I like to end with my final thoughts. What did I think of this location and, the good parts? Was there bad? Or all that good stuff. I found it to be a rather intriguing and quite fun spot. It's an easily missed spot. Pretty out of the way, and you wouldn't often find it normally. The distress radio, is very localized. You get it just basically hugging the wall or at the entrance, so you can't get the radio distress signal from very far away and investigate and come closer or look around. It's very restricted. I think that's part of the story, with the fact that no one's actually heard the radio call because no one could actually, receive it. But yes, I do like the compacted design, this wrapping around the outside of a peak and then descending through the center. It's a great way to maximize a small location for story purposes. And that creepy notes as you go along, getting the hints of the story, the ominous radio call that you may actually miss and not even listen to if you're not paying attention. You may be too intrigued with fighting the coyotes or the rad scorpions up ahead to notice that you actually got a radio signal. It just pops up in the top left of your screen when you're getting close, so you might actually miss it. I also really love the tail of the notes. I almost feel like the place could have actually done without the radio broadcast. I personally think that might have even made a bit more of an interesting tale, an interesting story. Discovering the notes, reading what's happening. Parts with Jackson talking about the fact that he's seen things in the water, but then they head down to investigate and they find nothing. But having that knowledge of, well, the mutants attacked because this private guy put the call out and said so, kind of actually ruins the mystery a little. The lake lurks are creepy creatures and can often be quite tough sometimes. Depending on your level, I think some things might scale with your level, so there might be harder creatures than the base lake lurks. I don't think they ever replace a creature with a higher variant of a creature, they just sort of upgraded that creature to a more tougher variant. So you could find yourself quite in a spot of bother in the lake lurk caves especially. That's perhaps when mayhaps getting the private to help you might become almost vital. He has a service rifle, I believe, so not the highest damaging weapon at the higher tier stuff. But yeah, I did quite enjoy watching because when I test stuff out and I do see sometimes I will check, for instance, the wiki and have a look to see if I missed anything. That's where I get notes on like bugs that may have existed because I might not experience every bug, of course. And also, if I do experience a bug, I actually go to there to check because I'm always curious to see if that bug has been found by anyone else. I do have this personal hope that someday someone who edits wikis and like that sort of stuff actually listens to my podcasts and goes, oh, that's not actually in the wiki. Let me make a note and double check and cross-reference and see if it actually happens, and then I'll put it in. But yeah, that might not ever happen. These games, I think, have been picked apart very cleanly. I do definitely think they missed a few steps with the story of the private. Adding some blood sprays around the radio would have made it seem a bit more feasible, and giving him a reason to seemingly come out of the cave after defeating the lake lurk, then going back inside, even if he just said a little quick line like, oh, I was waiting outside in the camp, but I heard and saw creatures moving in, because there are giant rats in the camp, there are rad scorpions all around. If he'd offhandedly mentioned that he had to descend back into the caves and went far enough in to, hide himself away, but you don't get that implication. You get the implication that he's almost stuck there because he's just so injured he can't move. And that if not for your intervention, he would have bled out there pretty quickly. But yes, another little fun location I've done. This is actually the second location I've done that I think I've personally, I don't recall this location at all. And this is the second time I've sort of experienced that. The previous place I talked about, Tacoma Park, which I talked about in my last podcast episode, I don't recall ever visiting as well. So this is what I'm more hunting for. I'm hunting for locations that have a bit of an interesting story, and that's something that I personally aren't at least hugely familiar with at the very least. The only downside to that is I have found a couple times now that these locations haven't been very interesting in the regards of loot or actual quests send you there, because I definitely went through all these games in my past playthroughs and play them to absolute death in the regards of getting just about every quest I could possibly do. And yes, I think that's it for Camp Guardian, and thank you very much, of course, to the Independent Wiki, a lovely shout out to them. I always use it as a source to find information or things that I might have missed or what have you. And especially things like with the notes, they always put the transcriptions in there, so I can just copy and paste that into a document rather than having to type it out manually, which is very lovely, I will say. Especially in Fallout New Vegas and 3, because the notes in the Pip-Boy are rather cramped and you have to scroll, so normally I'd have to take screenshots and scroll down, because I sort of go into the game, walk around, take screenshots as I go, and write as I go as well. That's why, for instance, when I missed a note, I didn't talk about it until I talked about it a little bit later and sort of corrected my notes a little bit, because I just plain up missed it. I don't sit there and look at a quest log and go, okay, this is where the next one is, this is where the next one is, or what have you. I probably should do that for better podcasting and writing, but I prefer to go and experience it fully myself as much as I can. So yes, a lovely shout out to the Fallout Independent Wiki, and of course, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment especially. Let me know if there's any locations you'd love to hear me talk about. I'm still currently sticking to Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4, as it's the ones I'm most familiar with. Soonish, I will probably venture out into mayhaps looking at Fallout 1 or 2. I just need to investigate if there's a way to sort of do what I do in Fallout 3 and what have you, and New Vegas and 4, of course, which are where I unlock the entire map with a console command so I can fast travel anywhere. I don't have to have a save where I've visited every location and all that good stuff, and I can just bounce around and what have you. And a bit of behind the scenes, I also do turn off the combat AI. So that doesn't affect a normal AI, like, scripted sequences or what have you. It just affects the combat-specific AI so that enemies won't actually attack me, and I put myself in God mode anyway so I can bounce around and not get hurt if I jump off things, etc., etc. Things I can easily turn off if I do want to test parts, but it makes my life running around these areas a whole lot easier. And I need to investigate how well that works in Fallout 1 or 2, because To be quite frank, I don't quite have the time to play those games in their entirety just to unlock the maps at the moment. But yes, as always, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It was a fun place to discover and have a little look around and what have you. But yes, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.